Eventually, I would not be at all surprised if there weren't cons specifically dedicated just to Avatar, and probably sooner rather.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Who's Joe YouTube Edition.
Who's Joe?
Who's Joe?
Yeah. Who is Joe?
That sounds awesome. There's just people that just wanted Uncle Iroh. Tell them everything was going to be okay. Time with Greg Baldwin. That's my plan. Aku is for the theater. Aku is playing for the balcony.
Today, I am here with an iconic voice actor, Greg Baldwin. And why don't you go ahead and tell us a little about yourself?
Well, I am Mako Man. Primarily known for being a voice match for Mako Ibumatsu. Done some other work too. Clone Wars. I was on Clone Wars. Very proud of that. Obviously, Samurai Jack, which is another Mako role.
So, one question I'm going to ask you before we get into staring contest portion is, how do you think Uncle Iroh would approach a staring contest?
He would approach it very Zen-like wisdom. He would have a cup of jasmine tea to prepare himself for the staring contest and would proceed.
Sounds lovely.
This is how I prepare. I can move my eyebrows independently. Oh.
That's pretty impressive. I don't think I can do that. So what I'll do at this point is I will ask you our traditional first question, give you a countdown from 5, and we will start the staring contest when you start answering. So the traditional first question is, if you could collaborate with anybody in the world on anything, who would that be? And let's go ahead and do our countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Well, if it was living or dead, I think I already blinked. Living, I would say I would love to collaborate with Stephen Sondheim. I think he's one of the greatest geniuses the theater or America has actually ever produced. Dead, I think I would certainly collaborate with Mako. I would love, actually, I'd love to just meet Mako, but to collaborate with Mako, that would be really ending. That would be one. I think I blinked almost at the very beginning. Because I'm not sure, am I looking at you or I'm looking at the screen?
Whichever you prefer. I look straight at the camera, but kind of side-eye you. So say you had the ability to travel back in time and approach your young self at Spring High School in Texas. And tell your young self that one of these days he would voice one of the most iconic characters in television history. How do you think you would react to that?
I think my 18-year-old self would say, that sounds awesome. Honestly, someone asked me, what does it feel like voicing Uncle Iroh? It feels fantastic. It is a dream come true. I think my 18-year-old self was a cocky little bastard. Probably he would probably the second say, so how many Oscars do you have by now? Oh, dude, you won't have any. You'll just be Uncle Iroh. So, I think that ultimately, if I could go back and tell my 18-year-old self, I have had just, sometimes I think I'm going to get hit by a bus. I had a very supportive family, were always very loving of me. I have been happily married to my wife since 1984. I have 2 wonderful children. And then I ended up getting to do this, to be Uncle Iroh. It's like, I think, some days I think, if I told my 18-year-old self that, I think he would probably say, you know what, it sounds like you're going to do all right, Baldwin. That sounds okay. I'll go with that.
Well, my next question, I actually went back and dug through some of the interviews you've done in the past. And one story I've heard kind of common in those interviews is you talk about how Uncle Iroh would respond to being told to take out the kitty litter. So one question I have is, I'm going to flip that around a little, is how do you think Aku would respond to being told to take out the kitty litter?
Aku would vaporize every cat in the world. That's what he would do. He would just, boom, cats. There are no more cats. I have destroyed them. I always say, the difference, and it's interesting getting back to Maka because they're both, yeah. I always say the difference in the two roles is your voice. You're acting for the camera. Everything is very, very right here, very here, very real. But when you voice Aku is for the theater. Aku is playing for the balcony. And that has always been very helpful in trying to make the switch. Because they are essentially the same voice, but it's not the same voice at all.
I'm actually glad that you brought up theater and film because you've done both. You've done theater and you've done film. And one interview I did, one of my very early on film interviews I did was with Jason Warner Smith, who played Gavin on The Walking Dead. And one thing he mentioned in that interview is that he actually prefers to do theater to film because you almost get that instant gratification from having that crowd response.
And it is one of the things that I just tweeted about it today because I haven't done, I generally get antsy. Theater was my first love. There's no comparison. If I had a choice between doing theater, voice acting on camera, I would say theater is the thing that I have to go back to eventually because it's just who I am. It's what made me fall in love with acting the first time. There's a camaraderie of being with actors. Also a really cool thing. It's like you're all working together to achieve a common good. And also there's the problem solving element of it. If something goes wrong, you can't fix it in post. You have to be right on it. And then there's the connection, a very real connection that you have with the audience. Your performance could be, the audience is as much a part of your performance as the writer. Because whether if it's a good audience or a bad audience, they're going to affect you and how you act. So I absolutely adore it.
Well, I am now 34-0 in the staring contest portion of the videos. And for those of you who have watched my videos before, know that I'm going to attempt to go the rest of the interview without blinking as well. I've currently gone about 15 minutes without blinking.
Oh, good heavens. I couldn't do that. Of course, my eyes, I'm old. I suck, I can't. I've been wearing glasses since I think I was 5 years old.
I recorded a video on Saturday and actually just posted it yesterday. Yesterday being Monday, because this will be posted on Saturday. And in that video, I actually went to a small indie wrestling event and challenged the wrestlers there to a gauntlet staring match and went up against 8 of them back to back and beat all of them. So you mentioned on Twitter that as a Southern man, you like sweet tea.
What I grew up with.
So
no,
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. 90%. I will not order the hot tea because if I'm at an Asian restaurant, I'm probably going to order sake. So, I like sweet tea because I was raised in Texas. And, I'm not opposed to a Long Island tea now and again. But no more than 2, possibly, depending on the night. Because people always ask. I actually thought it might be interesting. Anybody who's listening, like everybody, watch a lot of cooking reality shows. And I thought, I really don't know a lot about tea. And tea, I learned this because I was looking at it, is the second most popular beverage in the world after water. I mean, by far. More than coffee, soft drinks, tea. It would be interesting reality show if I just went in and there's different kinds of tea. There's English tea, Indian tea. All over the world, they have different kinds of tea. I thought it would be kind of interesting to go and learn about tea, if anyone's listening and can greenlight this reality show, Tea Time with Greg Baldwin. That's my plan.
What are you looking forward to the most about getting back to cons?
And I always knew Uncle Iroh was a beautifully written character, had beautiful words. But at the end of the day, and I think the other cast members have said the same thing, when it was over, it was over. wow, that was a cool gig. Wow, we got paid. That was great. None of us knew it was going to have this remarkable afterlife where the fandom just gets bigger and bigger and bigger until it starts to approach Marvel and Star Wars type levels of fandom. And I didn't realize the impact that the show, and more specifically Uncle Iroh, had until I actually started going to cons and talking to them. I have had so many people come up to me to say, thank you. I was going through this bad time in my life, and Iroh said this thing, and it calmed me. It made me things better. And I've seen that, even during the pandemic. I've seen I do the cameos where you wish people happy birthday or happy graduation, and more of them once the pandemic started, are just people that just wanted Uncle Ira to tell them everything was going to be okay.
So the next question for you is going to be kind of a cerebral one. Is say you take out the influence that Uncle Iroh had on Zuko, and Zuko was actually raised by the Fire Lord. How do you think that story plays out then?
Very, very badly. For Zuko and all the four nations, I think very, very, very badly. He did. Yeah, I would have been. When you think about all that went before, if Iroh had not had that influence of Zuko, if Zuko had simply become Fire Lord and taken after his father, it would have been awful. It would have been just more bloodshed and genocide and horror. There's always one of the cool things about Avatar is it really is dealing with things that cartoons really had not dealt with before. And I call it a cartoon, but I would venture to say that Avatar: The Last Airbender is not just one of the greatest animated television shows of all time. I think a case could be made. It's literally one of the greatest television shows. It's just perfect. Eventually, I would not be at all surprised if there weren't cons specifically dedicated just to Avatar, and probably sooner rather.
What I'm going to combine two questions. What was your favorite memory before you started acting? And what was your favorite memory while acting or while you have been acting?
Well, I decided that I wanted to be an actor at a very, very, very early age. I mean, not that early, but I was 10 years old, and it was obviously a different age. We were living in Dallas at the time. Mom and Dad dropped. I would have been 10. My little brother would have been 7. They dropped us off at the theater on a Saturday afternoon. Well, they went shopping to do their stuff. Dropped us off by ourselves, and the film was Scrooge. This was a musical starring Albert Finney, 1970. That's why it's so difficult to say a time before I was an actor, because it would have been before that's what I wanted, because I would have been before I was 10. I do know this movie changed my life. Literally, there aren't many times where you can say there was a time before that, and then there was this. From the moment I saw that on the screen, I heard them singing, dancing, and I knew that Albert Finney, who at the time was only in his 30s, the only actor that ever played both young Scrooge and old Scrooge, to realize that was the same actor doing that. It's like, oh wow, he's really only in his 30s, but look at him playing this old man, and he's doing it so convincingly. And it's like from that moment on, I still get chills thinking there was literally no question whatsoever. That is what I wanted. Now, after that, a really cool memory that I had in my life. Lots of times, good things will happen on the same day as bad things. Sometimes I'll have, I got laid off and lost my agent literally within an hour. This particular day was the same day that I found out that I was going to be playing Uncairo. So that was a great day already. It was a week after Hail Caesar had Coen Brothers. We were in Burbank, and I had just sent out a Facebook invite, I think at the time, telling everybody, Melissa and I are going to be, my family are going to be at the AMC in Burbank, watching the 7 o'clock showing of Hail Caesar. Anybody want to come and watch it with me? That'd be fantastic, and I'd love to see you there. So this is the day that I found out I was Aku. I'm at a Mexican restaurant with my wife and some friends having drinks before we go to the theater. I walk into the theater. There are probably 150 of my friends there. You know, and they stand up and start applauding. So that was probably that was a pretty good day. That was a pretty darn good day. I think I might have had a little too much tea.
What's one thing that you would tell a younger person that is just now starting to get into voice acting?
Well, there's several things. The most important thing, and I think it was Andrea Romano who said this, who was the voice director for Avatar. Voice acting of all is acting. So it's not apples and oranges. It's all just oranges. And in order to be an actor, you need to act. That's the chance you get. You need to act on stage. Classes. You need to hone your craft. Now, on a more specific level, I always say very helpful to know how to do as many dialects as you possibly can and be able to do them well enough that you can pull them out of your back pocket immediately. In case in point, I was doing a show called The Marvelous Misadventures of Flapjack. And, they will send you an artist rendering of the character before you go into the court. I look at it. It's an English Bobby. It looks like an English Bobby with the hat, and everything. I told him, what is it going to be called? I always make him cook, right? I walked in all ready to do the road on this. The director said, now, this character's Irish. And of course, I know that's how they like. That's exactly how I planned it. So it's always a good idea to be able to do as many dialects as you can.
My last question is going to be, if you could take any intellectual property that's ever existed and insert yourself as a character in it, what intellectual property would that be?
My favorite character, this circles back around to Scrooge. It has just always been my favorite work of literature. I love Scrooge. I love the character. I love I love the fact that he changes. I think that, and that's why it's still so iconic and impactful all these years later. It's just a story about it. It tells everyone that I don't care who you are, I don't care how heinous you are. Everyone has the capacity to change. That is the one. That is indeed the theater. That is the one role. Before I shuffle off to the spirit world, that is a role that I very much.
And to bring Avatar back in it, there's on some ultra meta level, there's probably parallels between the character arc of Zuko and the character arc of Scrooge.
Absolutely. The thing is, Aang is the title character. Aang doesn't go on quite the same journey that Zuko goes on. Aang learns how to harness his powers, how to be the Avatar. Aang starts out, he's already a good person. He just ends up being a better person. Zuko you meet at the end of the series is not the same Zuko that you meet at the beginning of the series. He goes on a journey. I think, I think that's absolutely true. And maybe that's also one of the reasons why the show continues to impact lives, because they see Zuko's change. Anyone can change. Everyone is capable of change. And you think one of the shows I would love it if Avatar Studios. I know I'm not alone with this. I'd like to hear Iroh's backstory, because Iroh went on a journey too. Iroh was supposed to be Fire Lord. Iroh, people argue about Iroh being a war criminal. I think there's a lot of blood on Iroh's hands. A lot of blood on Iroh's hands for the death of his son, and that humanizes him. It teaches him empathy. I would like to, personally, if I ever see the creators again, I'd love to ask them, what about Mrs. Iroh? You never hear about Mrs. Iroh. Not once is she ever mentioned in their series. And she must have been, I can't imagine, because he loved his son so much. My own, and again, I don't base this on anything. I think it was probably an arranged marriage, and she probably died in childbirth. And again, that's just conjecture. It makes sense as to why perhaps she is never mentioned at all. And you would think, for someone with as big a heart as Iroh, I find it surprising that he never mentions his spine.
Agreed. There's two parts of Iroh's story that I'd like to see played out. Obviously, the seedier past, the darker past, with the wars of Ba Sing Se. I'd like to see that. But I would also like to see that window of time between Avatar: The Last Airbender and Korra that we don't really know much about.
Yeah. And he, as my understanding in Korra, Iroh doesn't really die so much as he just says, "Hi, I'm going to the spirit world now. I want to go hang out in the spirit world with my friends." I think it's interesting in the spirit world when they're in the spirit world. It's interesting, and I'm sure, but you know what? You don't see Liu Ten. No, I think that's probably one of the reasons why he went to the spirit world to be with his son. So, I would love you could do a whole series just about the spirit.
Well, I guess we've hit the point of the video where I'm going to get you to say I was not able to beat Joe in a staring contest.
I was not able to beat Joe. Staring contest. I would challenge my friend Michaela Murphy, who plays Toph. She can take you down, man. She can take you down. She's blind. Toph is blind. Staring would be easy. No problem at all, man. Easy, easy, easy.
So what do you have what do you have going on? What do you have to talk about? Do you have anything to plug?
Well, there's the Disney show that's coming up in October. Just finished doing some work on a video game that I'm not at liberty to discuss. A couple of cons that I have signed contracts for, but they haven't announced yet. So that's coming. There, you will be seeing me at cons near you very soon. And I keep doing this. It's the weirdest thing, This cameo thing, which I started doing, 2 years ago. Just a little extra money, be kind of fun. Wish people a happy birthday as Iroh. And this has become really important. It's important to me, not as a job, because I feel like I'm really able to connect with people. And I love the fact that it's just whatever I do, 9 times out of 10, no, 10 times out of 10, I'm just making someone happy. I'm wishing them a happy birthday or giving them some advice, just like happy graduation, or, giving them a pep talk. And I love that I have the opportunity to do that. That is truly one of the best jobs I've ever had, because it is so connection, so real. It's absolutely so real. And again, that's why this job, what a blessing. I had no idea that I would ever get to do this.
Alrighty, well, that's going to be it for another episode of Who's Joe YouTube Edition. If you haven't already liked the video, go ahead and do that. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. If you happen to be one of the 1 or 2 or 3 people out there in the whole world that still hasn't managed to watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, you need to stop this video right now and go watch that.
That's right. Stream the whole thing. Do not pass go. Do not binge all at once. I'm serious. You will be glad you did.
Need to follow Greg Baldwin on Twitter to find out what he's got coming up, because it sounds like he's got some really fun things with cons and video games and TV series. So go ahead and follow him for that. And there's going to be one video down here at the bottom left that I've recommended, one video down here at the bottom right that YouTube has recommended. Watch one of them, watch both of them, watch all of them. I have now gone a solid 53 minutes without the blinking. But
oh, gosh, man, that is a skill. That is a freaking skill, man. Wow. Yeah, no, and I don't see. I literally I could go maybe a second.
It's difficult. Around the 40-minute mark, it gets really hard.
Well, it's been a great. I'll do my favorite line as Iroh, while not blinking. I will try not to blink when I say this. It's an outro. If you look for the light, for the dark, that is all you will ever see.